Not by this, so I hope you're sitting down, but the coalition partners are about to start fighting. Yes, it's unprecedented, I know. But there's a by-election on the way, and it might just get ugly. It's been a week to remember for the Liberal Democrats, but not in a good way.
I pleaded guilty today, but having taken responsibility for something which happened 10 years ago, the only proper course of action for me is now to resign my Eastleigh seat in Parliament.
That will trigger a by-election in Eastleigh, which will see the two coalition parties going head-to-head in a Lib Dem Tory marginal seat for the first time. And that comes in the wake of last month's divisive vote on changes to parliamentary boundaries, a policy Nick Clegg once supported, but then abandoned after Tory opposition torpedoed House of Lords reform. There's been one beneficiary from Mr Hume's spectacular fall from grace, Ed Davey, the man who got his job when the Eastleigh MP left the cabinet a year ago. And if the party lose out in Mr Hume's old seat, pressure will grow on Nick Clegg inside his party, which could be good news for the Energy Secretary if rumours of his own leadership ambitions are accurate. And Ed Davey joins me now for the Sunday interview. So Ed Davey, do you see yourself leading the Lib Dems one day?
I'm really very supportive of what Nick has been doing. I think he's the best leader we've ever had, and I think he's going to lead the party not just into the next election but to the one after that.
Okay, so, let's take all that. So what's the answer to my question?
Well, listen, I think the Liberal Democrats have gone from strength to strength over recent years, and I think we've gone into government, we've shown what we can do. I want to be part of that team, and I'm not going to sort of feed these rumours that some people feed and some people want to see. I want to concentrate on the real issue. What Nick Clegg has been doing, for example, delivering our manifesto policy of income tax cut for people on low incomes. We've taken nearly 2 million people out of income tax. That's the real issue we should be talking about, not about personalities.
Well, you said the Lib Dems.
So, this guy's asked a question. Could you see himself as the leader of the Liberal Democrat Party, you know what I mean? And he immediately goes into, you know, panic mode. Don't ever want to mention, you know, my views and my aims to ever, you know, rise above my station, you know. Oh, Nick Clegg is like, we're the best leader we've ever had, ever, honestly. Better than anybody ever. You know what I mean? It's like, please. You know? So, just be honest, just say, yeah, Nick Clegg at the moment is, you know, the best leader we could have for the party. I obviously have dreams and perhaps some ambition to climb, perhaps later, you know, down the roads, you know, to be a leader in my party. But at the moment, I'm satisfied to, you know, follow Nick Clegg as my leader and give him the best service I can as a, you know, a public servant. You know, something like that. You know, you use your brain, man. You don't sit there and ramble and then bullshit and skip the question. Answer the question. If you answer the question, he won't come back and ask you the same question again several times in different ways. I mean, you're being interviewed. For fuck's sake, prepare yourself to answer these difficult questions, you know. This guy doesn't deserve to be in office. This guy doesn't deserve to be where he is. This guy is thick as shit, and all he's doing is just saying talking points and fucking rhetoric that he's fucking brainwashed himself into remembering. He can't think on his feet. He can't go in and be asked a question by, you know, an interviewer and then think for himself of an answer which is intelligent and to the point and pertinent to the fucking question. An answer should be an answer to the question you've asked. I hate when fucking politicians duck and dive and don't answer questions. I want to see them answer questions truthfully. As truthfully as they can. I don't expect honest to goodness, wholehearted 100% truth, but I do expect an answer to some relevance to the question. Not just a duck and dive and a bob and a weave like we're getting now from all the politicians and all the fucking, you know, so-called democratic countries. Yeah. They will get up on that fucking pulpit and they'll bang their fists and they'll shout and bawl about what they're going to do when they get in power. Then they get in power and they duck and they dive and they bob and they weave and you can't get a straight fucking answer out of them, man, you know what I mean? I hate that about politicians. Anyway, this guy doesn't deserve to have the fucking seat that he holds, you know what I mean? He doesn't deserve to be representing the people that he represents. This fucking asshat deserves to be fucking sacked, laid off, given a job somewhere, I don't know, fucking O2 or 3 or Virgin or some fucking thing, answering fucking the phone and telling people how they can't fucking get things sorted out because it's just too difficult at the moment. So politicians are good at, oh, we'd love to sort the problems of the fucking country at the moment, but it's just too difficult. It's just far too difficult, you know. Yeah. Maybe we'll take in 10 years' time when you've voted us back into power 2 or 3 times, and then maybe we'll do one little thing for you, you know what I mean? But don't bank on it. As long as you are.
Dems have been doing well, but let's just look at what's happened. Chris Huhne, first cabinet minister forced from office by criminal charges. David Laws, the shortest serving cabinet minister in history because of an expenses fiddling. Mark Oaten, in recent memory, need say no more. Jeremy Thorpe before that, your biggest benefactor, recently on the run from the law. What is it about the Lib Dems that makes them so susceptible to scandal?
Well, I actually think Liberal Democrats have been paying a really positive contribution to British politics. We talk about issues like having a stronger economy and a fairer society. That's the things that we focusing on.
But why have you got this checkered history?
Well, I don't think we have a checkered history, actually.
Really?
You've talked about 1 or 2 individuals. I think if you look at what the Chris Huhne situation, I think it's quite shocking and saddening that what's happened.
Did you
this
believe
week.
his denials?
Yes, I did. I took him on his word. But one thing we should remember as we debate the issue around Chris is he did make a really positive contribution to British politics. Having taken over from him as Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change, I see the fantastic work he did to really drive the green agenda so we can tackle climate change.
All right.
So as you try to, with others, look at the negative side, let's actually have the other side of the ledger. He made a positive contribution. He's got a very serious charge. He's admitted his guilt now. And he'll have to face the consequences. Law will have to take its rightful course. But let's not forget, he made a big contribution too.
Okay.
And this guy gets a big fail on his second question as well. The guy that had to, resign. I think he resigned because he got his wife to take a speeding fine ticket of his so that he didn't lose his licence. So she accepted the 3 points and said that she was driving, you know what I mean? Because he was captured on the camera or something like that. And she said she was driving, so she got the points, and then he, didn't lose his licence, so he'd drive to work. So I mean, basically, it's like, he had the idea, well, there's one law for you, scum of the earth, and there's another law for us politicians who can get away with it when, we get smart, except he isn't smart, because he got divorced from his wife because he was cheating on her, and she turned around and told the police that she took the points off him, and saved him his licence, and now she's just going through court, I think, because she perverted the course of justice. So she'd just been done for that in court. So the both of them fucking have fucked up and lost out now. These people, man, these people in high power, man, they're crazy as fuck. But this guy, what an inane fucking answer. He went into this position, took over for the guy who had to resign, and saw the good that he was doing. This guy is in charge of energy and climate change. He's all for green and all that, and yet they're in coalition with the Conservatives, who have just turned around and stopped money going to wind power and wave power. They're going to put that extra money into more coal, more nuclear fucking power plants. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is how green they are. They're in coalition with a government who stopped, paying out green money for green, energy production, and they're going to produce more nuclear. They're going to replace the aging, defunct and soon to be dismantled nuclear power plants in Britain. They're going to replace them with new nuclear power plants. That's how green they are with their climate change. You know what I mean? They are now supporting the Conservatives in producing more nuclear power plants rather than going into producing, hydroelectric or thermal. You know what I mean? I mean, fucking hell. Scotland's sitting right on the right spot to drill down, pump down water, bring up steam, and produce, you know, electricity from steam turbines. We could do that. Thermal fucking, you know, electric plants, you know what I mean? We could be doing that right now in Britain, you know what I mean? No, they're going to produce more nuclear fucking power plants and clean coal, yes, clean coal and gas. Gas, yes, gas, which puts fucking CO2 in the atmosphere. They're starting to frack in Britain now. Thank you, America, for that fucking wonderful idea of fracking. You know, not only are you setting your own water on fire, you're going to very soon be setting the water on fire in Britain as well. Woohoo! America's number fucking one. Thank you for that, America. You know what I mean? Fucking assholes. Politicians fuck me over, man. Especially this prick. This tosspot got into power on the fucking coattails of the fucking conservative motherfucking bastard and fucking cunts, you know what I mean? You know, and he's riding their coattails into power. This cunt is so dim, I wonder if he fucking passed fucking his O levels as dick, you know what I mean? But then, there you go. That's fucking politicians for you. It seems the most inept fucking people have the largest fucking conception, you know, and sort of view of themselves. And so they push themselves forward, and they get these positions because they want them. If only I'd wanted to be a politician. But then again, I'm probably lucky I didn't, you know what I mean? This dick doesn't deserve to be in power. This dick deserves to be fucking sacked as well. He's a fucking complete ass weight, man, you know what I mean? Who the fuck would listen to this cunt about fucking green energy when he's riding the coattails of Conservatives and supporting them in producing more nuclear power? Tosses. Anyway, let's see the resumption of this, you know, interview and see if the guy can at least give one answer to a question that might make any sense, you know.
Is Eastleigh a must-win for the Lib Dems?
Well, I think we really can win. If you look at the seat, not only have we held it now for nearly 20 years, we're very strong in the council, we've got a very good record. And the campaign, I think, will see us focusing both on what we've achieved locally and what we're achieving nationally. So, you know, that's why, against the trend elsewhere in the country in the last two sets of council elections, we've actually taken seats off Conservatives. We've won seats in May 2011, May 2012, when elsewhere we were losing them. So we've got a strong local record.
Absolutely. You're well placed, as you say. You're defending a 4,000 majority. Every one of the constituencies, 36 councillors, is a Lib Dem. It follows, therefore, that not to win would be a damning verdict on Nick Clegg, wouldn't it?
Well, I think we are going to win. I think we've got a fantastic...
But not to win would be a damning verdict.
We've got a fantastic candidate selected last night, Mike Thornton. He's lived in the area. He's got a very strong local record. He's lived there for 20 years. He's very active in the community. And I think someone like Mike Thornton is
not answering any of the questions the guy's answering, for fuck's sake.
I know you think you're going to win. I was just trying to get you to respond to my point about the position Mr. Clegg would find with him if he didn't win. But the campaign could turn...
Listen, I think Nick is in a strong position whatever happens.
All right.
He's a very strong leader, and he's shown to not just our party, but I think the country, that if you have a leader like Nick who sticks with his principles on things like taking the low paid out of income tax, you can deliver big tax cuts for people who are struggling in these difficult times.
The campaign could turn nasty, though, couldn't it? The Tories are out for revenge because you reneged on your promise to make parliamentary constituencies more equal.
Well, if you're talking about the whole boundary debate, as you said in your introduction, we followed, taking that decision, followed on from the Conservatives unable to deliver their promise in the coalition agreement on House of Lords reform. That was a very important policy for us. We've been campaigning for a democratic second chamber where people choose who sets the laws over them for over 100 years. We had that in the coalition agreement. It was actually in the Conservative Party manifesto.
Right.
Because they reneged on something which was so important to us, and we believe the coalition, we felt we couldn't go ahead with some other part of that.
Let's unpick that in some detail, because people, I think, are right not to trust you, aren't they? Because just listen to this from Nick Clegg.
On the broken scales of our democracy, 10 voters in Glasgow North have the same weight as 17 voters in Manchester Central. And this isn't just a single anomaly. These differences are repeated up and down the country. As of last December, Wirral West, Edinburgh South and Wrexham had fewer than 60,000 voters. Falkirk, Banbury and West Ham had more than 80,000. This unfairness is deeply damaging to our democracy.
Now, you were sitting on the front bench as he said these words. I presume that you agreed with every word. The broken scales of our democracy. Boundary changes.
Liberal Democrats have been campaigning for fairer votes for as long as I can remember. We want a fairer voting system in the United Kingdom, and Nick was explaining how we felt that for ages.
But then you didn't vote for it.
Well, the boundary changes, we think, were one way of doing it, but actually the real way is Liberal Democrats have said for many elections, you know this, Andrew, we've been arguing for electoral reform, for proportional representation.
I understand
that is the best way of delivering fair votes.
That may be the case,
the problem that Nick was setting out.
But let's be clear about it. This piece of legislation, it brought together, that he was talking about in that clip there, it brought together the AV referendum and the boundary changes and fulfilled the bargain struck in the coalition agreement. Let's just say we will bring forward a referendum bill on electoral reform, which includes the provision for the introduction of the alternative vote in the event of a positive result, as well as for the creation of fewer and more equal size constituencies. That was the bargain. The Tories kept their promise. You didn't.
No, to disagree. You've just taken an extract from the coalition agreement. If you look to the full part of that section of the coalition agreement, you'd see a promise to have an elected second chamber.
But it wasn't pegged to the AV. Let's look at that. Let's look at it.
You're doing the pick and choose.
No, I'm not, because I'm going to show you the next
I was involved in the coalition agreement, Andrew. Let me tell you what our deal was. The deal was something that we've been campaigning for 100 years, that some of us feel very strongly about, namely that the people of Britain should choose the people who pass the laws over them.
I understand that.
And when the Tories reneged on that coalition agreement, we felt we were completely within our rights to say, I'm sorry, you can't have the thing that was in your manifesto and not in ours.
Right, let's look at what was in the coalition agreement.
The problem with this sort of argument,
excuse me, Minister,
Andrew,
you've accused me of picking and choosing, so let's just go to the full words. I understand them very well, which is you can't keep your word. We will establish a committee to bring forward proposals for a wholly or mainly elected upper chamber on the basis of proportional representation. They brought forward proposals for a wholly mainly elected upper chamber. They kept their word on that. You reneged on boundary changes.
No, I just don't accept that at all. I think everyone knew when we were signing up to this coalition agreement, and some of us were very clear about it because we feel so strongly about making our country more democratic, more accountable people, so the people out there get to choose who decides the laws over them. And I'm afraid the Conservatives reneged, and it was only when they reneged that we said, hold on a minute, you have got to have a price to pay. And I'm sorry, that is the way...
What bit of that agreement didn't they keep? Look at the words up there, Minister. What bit did they not keep?
They didn't deliver on what was the expectation and the understanding. And I think you know, as well as we did, as well as the Conservatives did, that the expectation was that we would have legislation passed.
But it's not written there in the agreement, Minister.
This is what the programme was. It was in the Queen's speech, it was agreed in Cabinet, it was agreed in the Quad, and the Conservatives failed to deliver on that. So it's completely legitimate for us to say, hold on a minute, we wanted a modern democracy, more responsible to the voters. You've reneged on that, and so we're not going for a boundary change, which wasn't in our manifesto, and actually isn't our preferred way of delivering fair votes.
You agreed in the coalition that in return for an AV referendum, you would agree to boundary changes and cut the size of the House of Commons. You got your referendum, you lost. You got your House of Lords proposals, you lost that, and then in a fit of pique, you voted against the boundary changes. No, that's what happened.
No, I'm sorry, you're wrong on that. We had a package of democratic reform, of political reform in the coalition agreement. And unfortunately, the Conservatives weren't prepared to see it through, even though it was in their manifesto. And I have to say, we were very disappointed in that. Indeed, were many people who cared about this issue for many years. So I have to say the Conservatives have paid a price for their inability
for trusting you,
for their inability to stick by their word,
for trusting you, and you reneged on your promise.
Listen, I don't agree with that. I think it's really important that our country reforms its democracy, and I hope in many other areas where we are working well with Conservatives, we could have worked together there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to.
A couple of energy questions to finish off. First on nuclear. The Germans have pulled out of our nuclear programme. Our own Centrica, British Gas, has pulled out. It leaves France, EDF, it's got no money, it's laden with debt. Your nuclear policy is in real trouble, isn't it?
Not at all, because what you failed to mention is when the German two companies, RWE and E.ON, decided to sell Horizon, because of issues in Germany, not because of issues in the United Kingdom, what happened was there was huge interest from around the world to buy that Horizon consortium. And we were really surprised that the price that was eventually paid was far higher than people expected. And the Japanese consortium, led by Hitachi, paid nearly £700 million to take over the Horizon consortium.
So they'll go ahead and build our nuclear stations?
We think they are very keen to do just that. When some company pays nearly £700 million, I take that as a massive vote of confidence.
You don't know, do you? Until you give them a high guaranteed price for nuclear energy, in other words, a state subsidy.
No, not at all.
They're not going to do
We're absolutely clear, and I could not be clearer, that the key thing is to make sure we get value for money for the taxpayer, for the consumer, and for our economy. In the past, people have paid far too much for nuclear energy. We're not going to allow that to happen. That's why we have a coalition policy which actually came from the Conservatives' manifesto. I strongly support it. There should be no public subsidy for new nuclear.
All right. There is, of course, an alternative. The latest British Geological Survey says there's enough shale gas under UK territory to heat every home in the land for 1,500 years. Yet you say it'll have no major impact on gas prices. Why?
Well, the survey doesn't actually say that. It says there is a lot of shale gas there potentially.
200 times more than they thought.
Yeah. And let me explain very carefully what it really means. It means there's potential that there is a lot of gas that we could use, and I celebrate that. I think that's a very good thing because our North Sea gas is reducing. We're having to import a lot more gas. If we can have gas in the UK, which is not coming from the other side of the world, that's good for the UK. But what this survey shows is there's a potential there. It hasn't, because we haven't been able to do the drilling yet. I've given the go-ahead for it
but
to...
the potential is huge, isn't it?
If I may finish. What we don't know is how much of it is technically recoverable, and we don't know on top of that how much of the technically recoverable gas can be recovered in an affordable way. So they've got to do all the research. You can't just look at what happened in North America and say it can happen here. I hope we can get a lot of shale gas. I've made sure that the environmental controls are very strong. I've made sure that things like the methane emissions can be studied and
controlled. And if you get all
controlled.
that, why wouldn't it bring the gas price down?
Well, it's very unlikely to. Let me explain.
Well, it has in America. The gas prices there are a third of here.
If you look at gas markets, there are basically 3 gas markets in the world. There's a North American gas market, there's a European, and there's an Asian. And they're not integrated for obvious reasons of physical properties of gas and the cost to actually export and import gas. So therefore, the markets have to be looked at it separately. And if you look at the demand and supply for gas, the demand is increasing quite significantly in Europe and Asia, and the supply is actually chasing that demand. So the reason why I don't think that even if we are very successful in getting shale gas, it'll make a big difference in the price of gas is because there's such a huge increasing demand for gas.
Mr. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
And so there you have it. The last couple of questions there, inane blathering, running around the houses, never answering the question asked about the election that's coming up. It was asked, does he think he could win? And if they don't win, would it be a catastrophe for Nick Clegg and the Liberal Democrats? And he might say, oh, I think we can win. He never answered the question of whether it would be a catastrophe or whether it'd be seen as a failure. No, immediately just don't answer that question and just give your talking points. You know what I mean? Typical fucking politician. But then when they went on to actually talk to him about his subject, energy. You know what I mean? Energy and climate change. You know what I mean? So they ask him about the fact that the Germans are getting out of nuclear energy. By 2020 they want to close down all their fucking nuclear power stations. The French are still involved in nuclear, but they're not building any more nuclear either. No more new nuclear in France. Right? And then he goes on to say that the Chinese bought Horizon, conglomerate, who are going to potentially build the new nuclear power stations here in Britain. The Japanese, who've just had a horrendous fucking disaster that spread fucking nuclear fucking fallout across half the fucking country. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's who he's excited have bought £700 million pounds worth of Horizon, to potentially build nuclear power stations here in Britain. The people who have just had 3 or 4 fucking nuclear power stations go into meltdown. That's who he's excited and he's He's the Liberal Democrat energy fucking spokesperson. You know what I mean? This guy is fucked up. Somebody ought to take him aside and say, by the way, you're in the wrong fucking job. You know what I mean? Let's get you selling, you know, causes and what would you call them? Fucking whole suits you zip up and sit in when you're freezing to old age pensioners. You know, get them on a fucking, you know, a phone, phoning old age pensioners and selling them shit they don't need. That's what he's probably good at. But he's not good at being a politician. Certainly not good at being a fucking energy fucking spokesperson. And, you know, I mean, fucking hell, man. And as for that, you know, why can't gas prices drop if we drill for the shale under Britain? And he's giving me all this bullshit about, you know, well, it dropped in America, but then it's a different market. What the fuck's he on about? If you find a resource in your own country, it saves you money because you're not importing it. Therefore, the price should drop. The only reason the price isn't going to drop in Britain is because the people drilling for it are huge multinational companies, and they know that if they turn out to the British government and say, we're not going to pay you, we're not going to drop the price, we're going to charge you the same price, whether we're getting it cheaper or not, we're going to make just bigger profits. Simple as that. And we'll give you a seat on the board one day a year to come and push some paper about and pay you £300,000, you know what I mean? How about that, Mr. Cameron, Mr. Nick Clegg, Mr. fucking what's your name? Yeah, we'll give you a seat on the board, you know. A non-voting seat on the board, where you come in one day a year, and we'll pay you £300,000 for that. That's how these motherfuckers get their money. That's how they can go into politics skint and leave politics 30 years later with a $5 million house, a fucking $2 million house in fucking south of France, and a fucking yacht that costs $8 million. That's how politicians make their money. They're not doing it because they feel that, you know, they've got to do this job for the people. No, they're doing it because they're going to make money. You know, they're doing it for, look at fucking Tony Blair. Don't get me wrong, I thought Tony Blair was, you know, did a lot of good things, you know, but he's an asshole. He goes around making hundreds of thousands of fucking quid fucking in speeches, you know what I mean? The fuck's what's he got to talk about, you know what I mean? He should have fucking took the money and run when he got out of the office, man. What the fuck's a day in being an envoy for fucking Europe and all that shit, you know what I mean? Get yourself a fucking cottage somewhere and get some goats. Get yourself a greenhouse, grow some pot, and get the fuck away from fucking life, man, you know, and let other people get in there, you know what I mean? Let other people get in there and make their fucking millions, you know? Why are these people hanging around? Fucking hanging around, you know what I mean? You've had your fucking time, you got your fucking millions, and fuck off out of it, you know what I mean? And this dick, fucking hell. Yeah, shale gas isn't going to drop the price of gas in Britain because it's a different market from Asia and America. Now, fuck you, you fucking wanker. The Japanese want to be broken at building the new nuclear fucking power stations in Britain because they spent $700 million or 700 million quid or 700 million euros, whatever it fucking was, you know, to buy Horizon, you know what I mean? Yeah, the company that Germany was dumping because they don't want to build any more nuclear. Britain's going to take it up and trust them because they spent 700 million. They spent 700 million so they can make fucking 70 billion over the next fucking 20, 30 years. That's what, no, it's a fucking investment, you stupid fucking ass. I know that. That politician, fuck off if he believes that. The fucking twaddling fucking ass like. So, yeah, it basically failed the last couple of questions as well. Nice. Anyway, as long as you've motherfuckers, I think this will be my last upload for the night, and hope you have a good weekend. Well, what's left of it. As long as you've